somebody important is here. We don't know who it is. They haven't been able to get to the top of this thing. It's a Christian because of the carvings. It's definitely a Christian. Probably somebody very high in the church who was buried there to be, this is the closest burial to niche 1, okay, and the burial place that is so important to Caesar. Go ahead and click, and we're going to see this is a drawing of what that looks like. So right here is this doorway right here. Here's the back of the red wall and the clevis that goes up. Next slide, please. Again, we see, go ahead, click again, and reverse that. This was supposed to come up first. There's the back of the red wall. This is this step right here. This is as close as you can get to the burial place of Peter. Go ahead and click. Niche 2 is right about here. Niche 1 is somewhere, go ahead and click, somewhere in this area here. Okay, that would be niche 1. Let's get down to brass tacks. What did they find in niche 1? In niche 1, they found bones. Not surprising. However, when they did the study of the bones, they found that the bones that were presently, when they came up to it, they were the bones of 3 different people, a woman and 2 men. One was a young man, one was an older man. When they studied the bones very carefully, they found that the dirt clinging to those bones was not just the dirt in niche 1. There was dirt from other parts of Vatican Hill. So these bones were gathered from other areas of Vatican Hill and placed into niche 1. The bones of St. Peter? No, not the bones of St. Peter. Why did they do that? Let us see. We're going to go back, next slide. We go back here, and again, here's, like this is looking down onto niche 2. Here's the red wall. Here's the south pillar, and again, they built that south wall as a retaining wall again, just kind of for symmetry. Here's the crack in the red wall, and this is the wall to the north that they built to keep the wall, the red wall up, and there's the northern pillar. This wall had graffiti written all over it, and so the archaeologists called it the graffiti wall. Very good. Okay, good. By the end of the night, you'll be archaeologists. So again, asymmetrical opening. Go ahead and click. We're going to see, here's the model. All right, so we're looking here. This pillar, that's the base of that pillar. Here's where the crack would have been. There's the wall, the graffiti wall. And again, the asymmetrical opening down into niche 1. Go ahead and click. If you're on the tour, you can look at the south column. This is the south column and the south wall. What's left of it? It's enclosed, and they've uncovered just that much so you can see it. Here's the video. What was it enclosed in? When Constantine built his basilica, he took that trophy. He chopped off the red wall on either side, and he enclosed it. Go ahead. He enclosed it in a marble monument made of marble and purple stone called porphyry. Remember, purple was a color reserved for the emperor. It was very expensive, it was very lavish, it was very rare. And so anything that was purple usually had imperial overtones, okay? Something to do with the emperor. So here is the mausoleum. This is what we think Constantine's Basilica would have looked like. And if you were looking right through here, this would be niche 2. Okay? That's niche 2. Next slide. Here's the back of that, the opposite side. This again, white marble, purple porphyry here. Okay? You see these columns right here, these twisting columns from Constantine's Basilica are still visible today. When you're in St. Peter's Basilica and you're at the high altar, there are 4 pillars on either side, underneath the dome, holding up the big dome. There are balconies or loggia on those 4 pillars. On either side of those loggia are 2. On each side, there's one of these twisting columns from Constantine's Basilica. It's still in use today. Okay, go ahead. This is that was the east or west front, the west face. Okay. Now, if we go to look at the we're now looking at again the west side of the monument of Constantine, and there it is right there. That is the monument that Constantine built. This is called the Clementine Chapel because it was built by Pope Clement. When Constantine's Basilica, Mass was celebrated either in front of that monument or behind the monument. Pope Gregory came around in the year 600 and he raised the level of the presbyterium, of where the priest would sit. He raised it so that it covered most of the trophy and the monument of Constantine, and he built an altar around the top of it. Okay? Pope Calixtus came along in 1119, and he didn't want to say Mass on Gregory's altar, he wanted to say Mass on his own altar, so he built an altar around Gregory's altar. Then Clement comes along in 1592, and he decides, I don't want to say Mass on Gregory's altar, I don't want to say Mass on Calixtus' altar, I'm going to say Mass on my own altar, and so he built his altar, which is right here. Now above that is the altar of St. Peter's, okay? We're going to take a close-up of this in the next slide. Okay, there's the monument of Constantine. Next slide, we're going to see, the Constantine altar. There we see the actual, we get up close and we see the purple porphyry and the white marble. Now, we've been to the south wall, and then this would be the west face, and now we're going to see the north face next. Okay, there's the north face. This is as close as you can get to the north face. All right, go ahead and click. There's the Clementine altar. Right? And next, there's the graffiti wall. And in the graffiti wall, they found a hole that dates before the time of Constantine. There's a hole in the wall called the loculus. What did they find inside that hole? Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. We see here the graffiti wall. On this graffiti wall, we find the Cairo. We found the P that's got the 3 lines out of the bottom, like PE. We see the M, the A for Maria. We see the P for Peter. We see that all over these walls. Click. We found a piece of stone that came from this opening. And on it in Greek, you can just see part of it. It says Petros Eini. Peter is within. Peter's within. So, one day they were coming through, Monsignor was coming through, and he was looking through the archaeological excavations, and he went to this hole and he found some bones. He took the bones out, he marked them very carefully where he took them from, which was archaeological protocol. He put them in a box, basically the size of a cigar box, and he put them in storage. Right? As they discovered, this is right when they uncovered all this stuff, they hadn't evaluated anything yet. As they began to look at all this evidence, and they found this Petros Eini, and they found all the graffiti on that wall, they go, someone said, what was in this thing? What was in this hole, this loculus? Monsignor goes, there's a box in there. It's got it. So they went and they found the bones. Okay. You see the bones right here. They did a study of the bones, and they found that they belonged to one man. The man was aged between 60 and 70 years old. He was short, stocky, kind of a robust build. And that the soil clinging to the bones matched the sandy marl that is in niche 1, but no other soil from any place else was found there. These bones were most likely in niche 1. The bones were wrapped in the remains of a purple cloth with gold threads. Here's what is considered to have happened. That before the Goths and others came to Rome to sack the city of Rome, the bones of Peter were removed from niche 1 and hidden in the loculus in the graffiti wall to keep it close to the monument, but not where they would look for them. They put other bones in as kind of a decoy. They put other bones in the grave, right? Rome was sacked, Rome was looted. Niche 1 was never really bothered. Okay, they never got that far. Right? But this was a precautionary thing. They took the bones and they hid them in the loculus. Looking at all of the archaeological evidence, looking at the history of it, looking at all the pointers from Constantine on. Click. On June 26, 1968, Pope Paul VI declared that he believed these to be the bones of St. Peter the Apostle. He then ordered that they be placed in 19 plastic boxes, 19 of them because they're kind of grouped into where they came from on the body. Right? Plastic boxes, made in the U.S. And he ordered them placed back into the loculus where they had stayed for 1,600 years. Okay, next. That's the north side. We now look to the west face of the trophy. This is called the niche of the pallium. If you were in the crypt of St. Peter's Basilica, you can walk through, you'd be coming from this side, the north side, you walk along and you come here to the niche of the pallium. In it you see a familiar figure. Next slide, please. And in front of the icon of Christ, we see the container for the pallium. The pallium, as you know, is a white cloth worn by archbishops to show their authority as archbishop. It drapes around their neck and hangs down the front and the back. They are made of lamb's wool and then placed into that casket until they are presented by the Holy Father to the archbishop. Notice that this is what it looks like, okay? Notice, again, it's not symmetrical. There's an extra piece of marble over here. Instead of cutting this off here, like it is over here, there's an extra piece of marble. Notice what color that is, it's right, okay. There's always a vigilite right there. This is where the north column would be, and is the end of the graffiti wall. Okay, so here's the graffiti wall. So that's where you would find the bones of St. Peter. Why is this important? St. Peter, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. There you can see one more. There's the graffiti wall. St. Peter was bishop of Antioch before he came to Rome. Had he died and been buried in Antioch, I'm not kidding, we would have been the Antiochian Catholic Church. Because Peter was the final word. Upon this rock, I will build my church. But because this simple fisherman, a follower of Christ, imperfect as he was, came to Rome and died there. You know the story of Quo Vadis, right? There's a church called Quo Vadis. Are you aware of that story? Where Peter heard that they were going to arrest him and probably kill him. So he took it on the lam. And he's walking outside of Rome. And as he's walking outside, tradition has it, he saw Christ walking back toward Rome. And he said, Lord, Quo Vadis, Domine. Lord, where are you going, Lord? Quo Vadis. And he said, I'm going to Rome to be crucified again. I just know what Peter did. He went, all right. And he went back to Rome. I'm sure he didn't go all that willingly. Right? Remember, he was already heading out. But he turned around. And I think that's an inspiration for me, I know. That he turned around and he went back. From the top of St. Peter's Basilica, and notice what's on the top there. Not a statue of St. Peter. No. The cross of Christ. From the top of St. Peter's Basilica, next. Down through the baldacchino of Bernini, through the high altar of St. Peter's Basilica, next. Down to the niche of the pallium, niche 2, and down below into niche 1. Right underneath the focal point of St. Peter's Basilica is the tomb of that simple fisherman. Think. Had he not been buried in Rome, Rome would have ceased to have been a major city millennium ago. It would have ceased to have been a major city. It wasn't a port anymore. It wasn't a seaport anymore. It would barely have stood up. But because the church was centered there, okay? Because the church was centered there, learning was centered there. Because learning was centered there, Greek and Roman culture was spread throughout much of the world, okay? Including to our country. So we're not just talking religious things here. We're talking history. Had he died in Antioch, the church, the Christian church would have been centered in Antioch, much closer to Jerusalem, much closer to Mecca and Medina, and the places of the Muslim holy sites, including Jerusalem. What would have happened then if they were that much closer? It changes the entire view of history, because one man and his faith came to a city, and he died, and he taught, and he died, and he was buried there. And because of that, our world is the way it is today. Had he been buried elsewhere, just think, things would have been very, very different. The bones of St. Peter. Are they the bones of St. Peter? Archaeologists say that all archaeological evidence points to that. That's as close as they can get, without, something dated from like a death certificate, you know, buried with him. Other than that, they're saying, this is what we think. And Paul VI, John Paul II, Benedict have all made pilgrimages to that place. They all go there to pray. They all think, these are the tomb. Next. Today we see, again, the bones of St. Peter, right? In that humble little place there. Next. The 265th successor of St. Peter in Rome. Continuous line of succession because of that man. One of the most archaeological important discoveries of the 20th century, and in my opinion, one of the greatest faith discoveries. Many, many pilgrims have seen that and been moved. On the table over there, you will find the official report of the excavation. There are some magnificent plates in there, some magnificent pictures in there. The big red books, please just be gentle with them. You can open them and look at them. Be gentle, they're kind of not available anymore. There's some other books that I use for research and books that you can get in Rome. Someone brought some other books there as well. Also, I'd like to point out, are you familiar with the Holy Door? Who's familiar with the Holy Door? Every 25 years there is a Jubilee year. Okay? And as part of the ceremony of the Jubilee year, there's a door that is only opened for that year. And part of the pilgrimage you make is to go through the Holy Door. In the intervening years, that door is bricked up. Literally bricked up. Okay? So in 1983, for the special Jubilee year of the Redemption, that called by Pope John Paul I, John Paul II, they had bricks placed in there, and this is one of the bricks that was in there, and it was opened. It was in there from actually 1975, and it was opened in 1983. From 75 to 83, this was in there. This is one of those bricks. Okay, so you can take a look at that as well. Do you have any questions whatsoever? You've been very patient. Yes?
Where's the Holy Door located?
The Holy Door, when you walk up to the main door of St. Peter's, it's to the right. Okay, it's one of the main doors that goes into St. Peter's. There's the huge main door that goes right up the main altar, and then there's a door on each side, but in between this, right over here, there's the Holy Door. And there's magnificent bronze doors that are covered, that are closed. And then for the whole year, they take down the wall inside and then open up.
I have another question. What was the Circus of Nero?
The Circus of Nero. A circus was a, you've heard of the Circus Maximus? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Beg your pardon. I presumed something I shouldn't presume. A circus was a horse racing place. Ever seen the movie Ben-Hur? Okay. Remember when they're going around that chariot race? Okay. That was in a circus. Okay. They go 7 times around was normally the race. And it was long and narrow and like an amphitheater. They would do other things in there as well, but mostly it was for the chariot races. And just like the horse races today, they bet and all that kind of stuff. You know, food, and they have authors there and stuff. Rah-rah for your team. But the Circus of Nero is where they had sporting events for the masses in Rome.
Roman NASCAR.
Yeah, Roman NASCAR, exactly. It is Roman NASCAR. Not quite so long, you know. But you're right, they're making a left turn. Okay. That's pretty much what they're doing. Okay. So, other questions? Well, you've been very patient. I hope it wasn't too painful.